Take it out. Okay, thank you for that. Let's do something else. Okay. So just to take you through the interface before we go deeper into what we have to do. And what we'll do is that once the S4 is ready, I'll take you through that interface to show you the changes. So no worries. It's good you're learning both of them. In case you go for an interview, they ask you, have you seen ECC before? Because you might still get into projects that are still using ECC. So it's a plus for you if you're experiencing both. Yeah. So now I've logged in. If you want to log out, there are different ways of logging out. If you go to the menu, you would most likely see, if you're using the S4, you would see close the window. That will add, then of course something will trigger and say, do you want to close? You say yes. Or there's what we call transaction codes, which I'll explain much more. Slash EX means exit, but don't bother your head about codes. I'll share them. I'll explain them much later. So if you go to menu bar, you will see functions like SAB menu, business workplace, create roles, display menu, and other functions you might find in S4. Um, Menu is what you're seeing here. We call this interface the SAP Easy Access. Easy access in the sense that for users, end users, this is their screen. Yeah, they can navigate through different modules on SAP using the SAP Easy Access screen. Now, at the top, we have edit. Edit, you can use it to execute transactions. When we say execute, we mean you should run a transaction, like click that you should start. Favorites, you might be working with some very regular T codes and you want to be able to save them so that you can work with them. Yeah, so you can create all those in your favorite system. I'll teach you that too, just explaining the tabs. If you want to display the technical names or what we call the transaction codes, you can do that as the extra screen. If you want to display some documentations and you want to do some settings, you can go to the extra screen or extra tab and you're going to see the functions. System, very, very important. You have utilities where you can debug. Debug means troubleshoot. You have status that can show you the kind of system you're using. So if I go to status now, for example, so whether you're in ECC or in S4, go to system, go to status, then you would see, it will just take you through the version of SAP you're using and virtually more information about the system. The status will give you that functionality. Yeah, this is quite slow for today. I need to check. Okay. Okay, so if you go to system, you can see we're using SAP ECC 6.0. If you're using S4, it will show you S4HANA and the version of S4 you're using. So you can always check that at the status of your system. Now, there's something very important I need to also explain. How do you navigate? Yeah, sorry, let me just do something very sharp. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
okay, good. So now I want to navigate through the system. There are three ways. The first way is to use what we call transaction codes. There are thousands of them that you can use to run transactions. So I don't expect you to cram them. Yeah, but there are some you use on a regular basis. So those ones you most likely be familiar with them. Those are the ones that even when you go for interview, they want to check, if you're familiar with the regular ones. So the first way to navigate through the system is through the transaction codes. I'll tell you that. I'll show you that in a few minutes. So if you look at my favorites here, this ME21N is what we call a transaction code. Yeah. And the second way you can navigate through the system is saving the transaction codes in your favorites. So favorites are basically the transaction codes or the transactions you use very frequently. So instead of you know noting them down in a book, you can save them in your favorites. And the third way you can navigate through the system is through what we call the menu paths. So for example, I want to open a customer invoice in finance. So I'm just going to do two things, right? First of all, let me deactivate system. Okay, okay. So I want to open customer invoice. By virtue of my role, I know that the transaction code to open a customer invoice is FB70. So I click on enter. So I'll go to the command bar, put the transaction code for invoice, and click on enter on my keyboard. Or I click this icon here called enter. So let me click on enter on my keyboard. At the bottom of the screen, it will give you a message. It will always give you the status of the transaction you're running. If there's an error, if there's a warning, just look at the bottom of your screen when hit you try to process transaction to see what is happening. So here you can see it's saying start of application, enter invoice, program terminated. So I'm waiting to see the message. Okay, so there's an error somewhere. That is, let me just go back and check this. It took a lot of time. So the system is flagging it up. So just a second. This system is slow.
Kelly, please, I want to ask. Yes, we are not hearing you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you now. Can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yes. So you can go ahead. You wanted to ask a question.
Okay, it's like a particular sound is clashing. So I don't know if you open two system and the mic is open.
Yeah.
I think that is why. Maybe you mute one mic. I think the both is clashing.
Okay. Okay. Is it fine now?
It's okay now. It's only when you're talking. It's like
Uh,
yes.
okay. Can you hear me now? Let me see if this is fine. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. I think it's
Yes.
just a background noise.
Yeah. Okay. It's fine now. Actually, even from my end. Okay. So let me just do this. Let me go to FB70 again. I don't know why it's okay. I think I'm having some feedbacks. Okay. 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 So what I will do, let me go to F-02. This is also a transaction code. So I don't expect you to cram them because there are so many. But as you use and get familiar with the system, you are now going to actually know how it works. So I'm going to go to F-02, click on enter. F-02 have taken me to what we call the GL account posting. Yeah, so this is a document, and you guys can hear me, right? Let me be sure.
Sure.
Yes, okay. So this is a document we use to post GL. So I'm teaching you how we navigate the system, how we, especially for those who are just seeing this for the first time. So the first thing I said is that to navigate the system, we use what we call transaction codes. The second thing is you can navigate the system through what we call favorites. Yeah, but if you check my system, you will not see the code again because when you log into a system newly, the transaction codes will not be visible. That's why you're not seeing it here again. If you want the transaction codes to be visible, you need to go to extra, the menu bar just at the top. Go to extra, go to settings, then tick the box here we call display technical names. You tick display technical name. You can even tick the do not display picture, this picture by the side, then say okay. See, the picture by the side has actually left the screen and my technical names are back. So if you go to extra settings, these two, the technical name controls whether you're going to see the transaction codes. That's what we call them. Now, that F-02 is not here and it's something I use regularly. Instead of me cramming it or writing it down in a book, I want to have it as part of my favorites. So what do? I'll go to favorites at the top. I'll go to insert transaction. Then I'll put the transaction I want to see, F-02. Then I say okay. Automatically, it is now in my favorite list. So anytime I want to process this transaction, I don't need to remember the transaction code. I just need to go to my favorite list and I will see that this is gone, if I click the drop down, the favorite list is back. Then the third way so the first way is to use transaction codes. The second way is to go through the favorite menu if you have saved it in your favorite. The third way to navigate the system is what we call through the menu paths. So if I go to SAP menu just here, and something I need to also tell you, you can be in any of these screens. So this icon here means workplace. So when you log in, you might be in another screen that is not the screen you're expecting. There's always an icon by the side to tell you, okay, this is this screen you are in. So I've just clicked this workplace. Workplace is like an emailing structure. So inside of SAP, we have an emailing structure where you can send emails and receive authorizations within the system. So if you're using SAP, it has its own internal emailing system, inbox, outbox, and all that. So if you're within the company, you guys can be exchanging email using the internal system of SAP. You don't need to use Google or Gmail or Outlook and all that. Now, how did I get here? I just clicked on the icon, this guy, and it took me to the workplace. This one is called, so this other one here is called the SAP menu. So remember, if you're not seeing this interface, just check at the menu and click the SAP menu. It's going to bring you to this interface. Then I want to look for F-02. Remember, I put F-02 in my favorites, but I want to navigate through that path. So I'll go to accounting because that's, oh no, it's not good. There's something wrong. I need to check. Okay. So if you want to navigate through the menu, go to accounting. Yeah, with time you will know all this stuff, but I guess you're just entering today, so it's fine. In accounting, you have different modules. F-02 is in GL because F-02 means GL accounting posting. So I'll find it in the GL. So I go to the GL. I know that is used to post, so I'll go to posting. Then I will see it here, F-02. So these are the three ways you can navigate the system on SAP. If you know the transaction code, you go to the command and put the transaction code. You can save it as favorites, or you can navigate through the menu part. If I double click on this, it's going to open the same page. So if you want to navigate through the system, you need to know these very three important areas on how to navigate the system. You can navigate the system through your transaction codes, through your favorites, or through the menu path. Please take note of that in case I ask you what you took home. Then the other thing is, if you go to the system, for example, I've showed you the status. You can also, do, set up certain things on the system. But all these will come as we begin the process because there are some things we cannot do now until we probably have transactions. On this menu, you can also work on the color, the visuals, the design. So if I go to options, for example, with this icon just here, you can see that you can work on the keyboard. If you want the keyboard to put the focus, you can work on the cursor, local data. There's a lot of field you can work on. You go to options. So if you want the color, if you want the color options, anything you can work around with the system. Set up color to system, new visuals. So the icon here just talks about the visuals, how you want it to look like. If you want to, so it's a normal color now because we're using a sandbox. Remember, this is a sandbox we're using on the dev system. But when we open the S4, which is more on the cloud, we're going to see a lot of these features, and I'm going to be explaining them again to you. But these are basic things that whether you're in ECC or in S4, the navigation is the same. Yeah, and basically, this is what you need to know for the navigation. There's also something very important we need to know as a functional consultant, and that's the cocoa of today's meeting. If you go to tools, so I want to navigate through the menu part to my configuration screen. I'd go to tools. So if I'm in SAP menu, go to tools. If you go to tools, go to customization or customizing, go to IMG. Then there is a T code that you need to note down in your book. The T code is called execute project. And no, the T code is called SPRO, and the description is execute project. So, like we said before, the BAs have handed us a blueprint and we want to start designing the system, which is a project in SAP. So we want to start designing the system, and to design the system, we have a project. So designing the system in SAP is like a project. So you can either use the transaction code SPRO on the command bar, or you go through the menu part. Let me go back. So I can come here and type SPRO and click on enter. When you click on enter an SPRO, you go to SAP reference implementation guide, is what we call IMG. SAP reference IMG, you click on it. Now, the first screen we saw was the interface for users. SAP Project is an interface for functional consultants because it is at the project phase that we do design. So this is the back end of SAP, and that is where the functional consultant does most of the cooking. Yeah. So you want to design system, you want to bring the business process to life, or the business blueprint to life. You have to do that at the configuration screen. So this is where the work starts. And if you go to the configuration screen, the foundation of all implementation starts with finance. That's why finance is the most sought after um, skill set within the SAP family, because every other module would have to wait for finance to start. Everything sits, finance is the foundation of all other modules. That's why they're high in demand. The skill sets are very important, and there's still a lot of work to do too for finance consultants. Now, before we start, I will explain the structure. Yeah, I'll explain the structure and come back to this when I've explained the structure, because we need to understand that before we start this training. So I'm going to stop sharing this. Um, and let me just start this. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. We are here.
Okay.
Yeah, we are here.
Okay. Okay. So um, okay, so I need to explain structure. I will take it up from there. Okay. Sorry, guys. So sad. But I hope that from the next session this will be better. Okay, so there's something I want to show you. Now, understanding this structure is very, very important. Even if this is what we can do today, then it's fine. Let me just do this.
Kelechi, are you recording it too? Just to remind you. Hello? Oh. Kelechi. Hello? Oh.
Yes, the
Yes, it's
class
on
is
record.
recorded.
It's on record. Okay, so basically what we have here is a structure, and understanding the structure is very important to designing the system. Now, at the top of the structure is what we call the client. Remember, I told you when you want to log in, you log in with the client. The client is the server you are trying to access. And at the highest hierarchy of the SAP system is the client. Now, once you leave the client, you're coming to the company code structure. And at the company code, at the company, you have different company codes. Let me just show you this. So this is the client, this is the company, this is the company code. So what happens is, if you're working for Shell, for example, Shell might have Shell Nigeria, Shell Germany, Shell UK. All those are called company codes. But company is like a group that is used to consolidate all the individual company codes. So that's a structure that SAP has when we want to start designing the system. system. Then, as part of your company code, then what we call configuration objects, fiscal year, field status, master data, all these you will find in the company code structure. So if I want to configure the system, the first thing I'll need to know is the company code. So let's say, for example, I think I was trying to open the blueprint. So this is an example of a blueprint. I'll just show you this. So you can see for company, we now start asking questions. So for this blueprint, the BAs have actually done their work. They have gotten all the requirements. But one of the requirements here, you see, let me see if I'm starting. Okay, let me start from the very top. So this is organization. You see, the highest in the structure is the client. So the client will explain the version of SAP you're using, the naming convention, and everything you need to know about the system. And immediately after that, you have the company. So when the BAs or the functional consultants are gathering requirements, you gather requirements based on how you're going to be setting up the system. You don't just go and get any information you want. The information you're going to be gathering from the client will be information that is necessary for you to design the system. Yeah. So the first question you see there is, do you want to structure your company to have one or more separate legal entities? What it means is that, are you going to be having branches or conglomerates or different companies that will form a group? So the answer here from the business is, we have only one legal entity, which is called XYZ Company Limited. The second question says, do you have foreign companies? The response is no. So in real life, this is how we gather requirements, because when you gather them, they have to fit into the design you want to do on the system. So it's very, very important that you gather requirements based on SAP standard processes. And of course, where there are deviations, we can cater for those deviations. So this is a structure. It is not everything, but I just showed you this so that you know that from the requirement gathering phase to the design, there is a structure. There are relevant information you need to gather from the business to be able to design the system. If you don't have those information, you have to still go back and get those information, because without those information, you cannot design your system. Yeah, and after the company code, we have other objects that we are going to be seeing as we start configuring the system. So this is structure. And as a functional consultant who will be in the SAP space, you need to understand what we call the enterprise structure. So we're going to use a sample company to show these processes. So I just wanted to show you this. When you get the slide, you can read about the different types of clients and every other information you want to get. So let me just switch back to my system so that we can start designing.
Can I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
Okay, is there any way we can have a sample blueprint? Because
Hi, Daddy,
when we
can
are
you hear me?
yeah, is there any way we can have a sample blueprint? Because when we are doing the SAP too, we didn't really go into the blueprinting. We just ended and said that there's a blueprint. So now that we are starting with blueprint and there are starting contents, especially questions and answers originating from the blueprint, is there any way we can have it?
Sorry, I need to mute this one.
Yeah.
Okay, you were saying, sorry, I needed to mute the
Yes,
other
I
one.
was asking on, yeah, if we can have a sample blueprint
You
to
will
work
get
on.
that. You will
Yes,
get that.
thank you.
You will get that. We might not have because of time, because if we work on because of time, we might not have that flexibility of following a blueprint bumper to bumper until we get to the end. That will take months. But what I will do is that from time to time, I will be referencing the system so that we can have an idea. When you are done with learning, you can pick the blueprint and follow that process end to end for your learning. I did that after my training.
Okay,
So
thank
you're going to get a copy of the blueprint
you. Okay,
for your use. Yeah, but just get the basics. When you get the basics, when you know how to configure, you can really, the sky is your limit. You can choose to get structures from anywhere and sit down and start designing the system. But you just have to get the foundation first.
okay,
Yeah. So
thank
we
you.
have logged
My
in.
hand is up.
Okay, go
My
ahead,
hand is
Kelechi.
up.
Go ahead.
Okay. I also wanted to ask, how do we, I mean, who drafts the blueprint? Is it the
Uh-uh.
client? The client just presents
That
it to you.
that question is for business analysis. Yeah, we cannot go into that now. But just know that the BA and the functional consultants is their work to come up with the business blueprint, majorly the job of a BA. And it's a whole process. So we'll talk about that when we come to BA plan. But just know that it's like I said, the activate has a lot of phases. In fact, well, the class you're joining now, they have done half of the work. Like that's why I kept referring back to the BA project management phases. It's a whole lot of work. And even in the project I'm in now, we have spent 4 months doing BA work. 4 months. The design will not take more than 1 month or 6 weeks. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So the main work, and that's why there are a lot of opportunities for BAs, even within the SAP space and project managers, because that's where the work is. Designing, as long as you have the prototype, you can design a system in 1 month, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, depending on how complex. And you don't have to design it completely. You can go live as and keep adding features as you move along. But to get the requirements, to liaise with the business, to gather the information, to put it in business process design, to do it all, that's where so when they are done with all those work, they'll just hand over the blueprint to the design guys. They start their own work. So that's just me. That's why if you want to be balanced in SAP, you have to really go through the two phases. So it gives you a very good picture. So if you are out there, we had someone in this class that applied for SAP functional consultant role. She went for the interview. They showed that she had a lot of no. I was also part of that interview session because I was invited. They saw that she had invited unofficially, though I was at the background. They saw that she had a lot of knowledge in the project space, and they said, "We have done the interview. We have seen that because she also came from the medical background. We have seen that you are more of a business process person, and you know how to talk, you know how to interact, you know how to do a lot of stuff. We will need you more in the business analysis space." And that's how she got the job to be an SAP BA because she learned both of them. She was able to go to the interview and show the one she knew, and she landed the job. So it's good that for a balanced knowledge, you have to. That's why you're asking me now, who gives me who, how do they do the blueprint? Well, somehow it's a topic for another day. So let's go into the preliminary phase of design, and I'm going to be um, let me see if I'll be referencing the blueprint side by side, so that you can, so that in the future when you're using yours, you can find your way around. Just a second. Let me see if I can find it on this system. Let me see, this is here. What did I use for this? Okay, SAPFI. Okay. Okay, let me just do this. Then I'll be referencing it side by side. But the document I showed you is a sample. So you see that anything we're configuring is actually coming from the blueprint. So I've opened the configuration guide as the designer. I'm looking at the blueprint and I'm configuring my system. The first things first is that when you open the system, you're going to go to enterprise. Remember, the first thing in that structure is the enterprise. So when you go to SPRO and when you start practicing, the first thing you get to is the enterprise structure, because that is the beginning. What we are trying to build is a structure. An enterprise is a business, and the enterprise structure is inside the blueprint, right? So when you go to SPRO and you enter into the system, the next thing you're looking at is the enterprise structure. So when you go to enterprise structure, you get to definition. Now in definition, you will see other modules there, but like I said, finance is, once the technical guys have set up the system, the next people who go into the system are the finance consultants, because they have to lay the foundation for other modules to sit on. So when you go to financial accounting, and those of you who are going to be project managers, BAs, it's important you understand how the system works, so that when you apply for jobs as a project manager in an ERP space, and of course they love when you say, I've used the SAP, I've managed the project in SAP, these are the processes, wonderful. You mustn't be configuring the system as a project manager, but your job is to understand the process and manage people who are going to be doing this job. Come up with timelines, come up with scope, a lot of, but you can't design a scope for a project or an ERP you don't understand. That's why it's necessary you also have this background knowledge. Now, when you go to financial accounting, we have some tabs here. The first tab here says define company. Remember, at the structure I showed you, after the client, the next thing we had was company. So you go to define company. If you want to open any transaction on the configuration screen, you use this small box here. It's called execute. You can just click on it. It has a IMG activity, it has a good sign and a clock-like stuff there. Just click on it. Just click on it once. Even if it's twice, nothing will happen. But to give the system some breathing space, click on that stuff once. If you click on the body, nothing will happen. You have to click exactly at this IMG activity icon. So depending on the speed of your system, it's going to open. Now, when it opens, you're going to see other company codes there that other people have used or done, or myself have done. Yeah, so that's where the journey starts. So for the company we have from the business blueprint, the name of our company is XYZ Limited. So I will click on new entries. Yeah, I'll click on new entries. Let me see if I can send this document quickly here so I can be referencing it side by side. So that it's going to be fine. Just a second. Let me do that transfer. So that it will look, so that you can get a very vivid picture of what happens. Difference analysis. Okay. Once we go for break, I will use that to find that. Okay, so it's coming. So the first things first, I'm going to create my company. So I'll use new entries, and this space opens up. Yeah. So here, the business would have given you all this information, or you would have requested all this information from the business. So that's why we said that the BA or the project manager needs to understand the ERP and the relevant information he needs to gather, because if the functional consultant wants to design this system and he doesn't have a company name or a company code and address and all that, it doesn't make sense. So the BA needs to understand the system to be able to effectively be a BA. The functional consultant needs to understand business process to even design the system. So a complete consultant is somebody who has a touch of both, so that you can appreciate the work that has been put into. So the company here for me is XYZ1. The company name is XYZ Limited. The streets. Remember, I'm getting all this information, assuming I'm getting all this information from the blueprint. The street is 31. Nope. The postal code is 34X, RT1. The city, we're going to be using a country in the US, is LA. The country is US. The language key is EN, which is English. You can click the drop down here to see other languages. So once we're done from this class and the server is up, it's expected that you go through this video and create your own. So the culture of the class is that wherever I do and stop for every class, when you get to your own system, you do and stop there, right? So that will mean that you have actually succeed or following. Because if you don't do yours and get to that point, then if I'm coming for the next class, it's going to start getting confusing. So wherever I do and stop, you should go back. You have 1 week to also replicate what you have done in your own company, not in my own company. So you're going to create your own. So when you're watching this video, just follow it step by step. So we have provided all this information which we got from the business blueprint. You can also put the currency, which is USD. Click on enter. Okay, so this contains, okay, let's say, okay, 5 or 10 digits. So you can see. So guys, when you work on SAP, you're going to understand the message. I put 6 digits here. First of all, I did a field that had both words and letters, both words and numbers. He told me the postal code must have length x 5, length 5 to 10. If I have 4 digits, it will still tell me. So error message in SAP means that you need to stop. and attend to the error. In SAP, once you have an error, you cannot go forward until you resolve that error. Once you have an error or a field is throwing up an error, you have to go back to that field that is giving that error and give the field what it wants, or else you cannot move an inch. That's how SAP works. Sometimes it can be very, very frustrating. But part of what you will learn as a consultant is how to manage your frustrations. Yeah. So, and how to interpret the message SAP is giving you. SAP here says postal code must have length 5 to 10. If I don't put 5 here, 5 figures here, I will stay here from the next 1 year. This system will not move from this point. So once this field is required and there's a condition for that field, you have to provide the condition. If not, you will not move forward. So when you start having errors, don't get frustrated. First of all, check where you're getting it wrong. Second of all, try to go back and come back again. Maybe you missed a page or a requirement. Because when you have done your own check, you can now call me and say, it's not when you just hey, no, I've seen an error. No, no, no. So learn to be patient with the system, learn to follow the instructions, and learn to read the instructions that the system is popping out to you, right? And that is the beginning of really understanding how the system works. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes,
So I'm,
continue.
so I'm going to put a 6-digit here, click on enter. So once I click on enter, there is no more error because I have provided the requirement that the system wants. So I'm going to click on save. Yeah. So when we click on save, there's a prompt box that normally comes up. We call it customizing request.
Hello, Kelechi. Sorry to
Yes.
take you back a bit. Okay, so
Okay.
for the postal code, so is it going to throw
Is
the
it
error
required?
based? Is it going to throw the error based on the country in some cases?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It will trade based on the country. And secondly, if the field is not required, no need. Yeah. And please use the same. Now, thank you for even bringing this question. Please don't go and use Canada or use, please, inside of SAP, especially at this learning phase, there are countries that have issues with the design. So we try to stick to Germany and the US. So if you're doing anything, please stick with Germany or US because their structures are well defined because we're not going to be copying, we're not going to be, like we said, we're using best practice. We're not going to be designing the system from ground up. No, we're going to be adopting the structures from either Germany or the US. So please let's stick to these two countries because they have been there for a long time, especially Germany. I like using Germany, but recently I started using more of US. But if you need me, all my config has been around Germany. Doesn't mean that in real life we cannot use any country. In real life, the because we're using a sandbox, so we try to stick to these two countries. But in real life, those you won't face those errors that we normally face when we use a sandbox. So let's stick to the US or Germany. Now, when you are customizing, when you click on save or enter, it's going to always bring this customizing request um, box. Yeah. Now, when we want to do when you finish designing your system in the development server, it is required that you need to move your configurations from the development server to the quality system or quality server so that you can do extensive testing. So whatever you're configuring is saving in your customizing request. It will go there and save so that when you're done, you can use the customizing request to transport from one server to another. So normally in SAP, You do all your design in the development system, make all the mistakes, do all the errors, design everything at the server. When you're done, you do your first level of testing in development server. You now move your configurations to the quality server. So that what you need this customizing request, these codes to be able to transport your configuration from one server to another. So when this field pops up, what it requires you to do is to create your own customizing request once. You don't have to do it 2 times. So anything you're doing another time will save on inside that customizing request. So once you're doing your first configuration and this pops out, what you do, go to create. If you're using S4, you can find some of these tabs here. So go to create. Now name your own give it your name your own project. So for me, this is XYZ1, XYZ Company Limited
Your cursor is
configuration.
not moving. We're not seeing it. I'm not seeing
It will
it.
move, don't worry, it will move. Configuration project. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, I'm seeing your screen, but not what you
Mm.
are.
Can't you see what I typed?
No, I'm
Hello?
not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. It's just that dialog box for the prompt for customizing request. That is just still where it is.
No, I've gone past that.
Mm-hmm.
You might need to restart. You might need to go out and join again. Can you, every other person, can you see what I typed?
XYZ company configuration.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
The
So
dialog box is
Kelechi,
there. The dialog
yes,
box we
yes,
hear now is create request.
yes, great request. Good, good.
That's dialog box.
So Kelechi, if maybe a call came in or something happened, you're lagging. So what you can do is to go out and rejoin.
Okay.
We're waiting for you. Just go out and rejoin. Okay. Mm. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, yes.
So okay. So I remember I clicked on the create sign. So whether it's ECC or S4, please look for the create sign and click on it. Then it will pop out this create request. You don't do anything, just go to the short description, type your project name, then at the bottom you will see save or okay. So it's either you see save or okay with a good sign. So click on save. Once you click on save, it's going to rename my request and bring your own project here. Remember, something was there before now, but because I said okay and I've created my own XYZ Company Limited is now what is there. So I'm going to be saving all my configurations here. So I'll click on OK. Yes. So when you see the message data saved, like I said, in SAP, you need to learn how to read the messages. If you have not seen this data saved, you have not saved. So don't tell me, oh, I did it, I don't know where it is. No, it is what you do in the system that you will see. If you do not save it correctly and you did not confirm, you can save as many times. If I click on save again, it will tell me data already saved. So don't be scared of saving. You can save as many. Saving is not a problem you should be scared of. But the message there will tell you what you have done if you have been successful. Once you are done, you can go back, you can click the back button. So whether it's ECC or S4, I mean S4, you might see the back button, you might see exit somewhere here, or go back, whichever one. Just make sure you're going back. So when you go back, it will take you to your company is now existing in the list of other companies. XYZ1 is the company and the name is XYZ Limited. Then you can save again if you like, but it's already saved. Go back another step. Then to bring you back to where it will bring you back to the initial screen you were. So the first things first, we have been able to define our company. We'll go for a 10 minutes break. When we are back, we will take some of the steps we have here and hopefully call it a day. Because we started earlier late, we also have to close a little bit late today. I also check the S4HANA server if it's up. If it's up now, if it's up, we can just continue from there or we finish with this. So let's go for a 10 minutes break at exactly 8:20, or just add, sorry, 9 minutes to your time. Whether you're in Canada or in Nigeria, just add 9 minutes to your time. For those in Nigeria, it's exactly 8:20, or UK or any other continent that have the same timeline. We'll come back and continue. So thank you much, guys. Let's meet again by 8:20.
Okay. Thank you, Kenneth.